بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. يا ربي هذا مقام من لاذ بك واستجار بكرمك وألف إحسانك ونعمك، وأنت الجواد الذي لا يضيق عفوك ولا ينقص فضلك ولا تقل رحمتك، وقد توثقنا منك بالصحف القديم والفضل العظيم ورحمة الواسعة. أفتراك يا ربي تخلف ظنوننا أو تخيب آمالنا؟ كلا يا كريم، فليس هذا ظننا بك ولا هذا طمعنا فيك. يا رب إن لنا فيك أملا طويلا كثيرا، إن لنا فيك رجاء عظيما. عصيناك ونحن نرجو أن تستر علينا، ودعوناك ونحن نرجو أن تستجيب لنا، فحقق رجاءنا مولانا، فقد علمنا ما نستوجب بأعمالنا، ولكن علمك فينا وعلمنا بأنك لا تصرفنا عنك حثنا على الرغبة إليك. وإن كنا غير مستوجبين لرحمتك فأنت أهل أن تجود علينا وعلى المذنبين بفضل سعتك، فابنن علينا بما أنت أهله، وجد علينا فإنا محتاجون إلى نيلك يا غفار يا غفار. بنورك اهتدينا وبفضلك استغنينا وبنعمتك أصبحنا وأمسينا. ذنوبنا بين يديك نستغفرك اللهم منها ونتوب إليك. ذنوبنا بين يديك نستغفرك اللهم منها ونتوب إليك. ذنوبنا بين يديك نستغفرك اللهم منها ونتوب إليك. تتحبب إلينا بالنعم ونعارضك بالذنوب. خيرك إلينا نازل وشرنا إليك صاعد ولم يزل ولا يزال ملك كريم يأتيك عنا بعمل قبيح فلا يمنعك ذلك من أن تحوطنا بنعمتك وتتفضل علينا بآلائك فسبحانك ما أحلمك وأعظمك وأكرمك مبدئا معيدا تقدست أسماؤك وجل ثناؤك وكرم صنائعك وفعالك أنت يا إلهي أوسع فضلا وأعظم حلما من أن تقايسني بعملي وخطيئتي فالعفو العفو العفو سيدي 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 اللهم اشغلنا بذكرك واعذنا من سخطك وأجرنا من عقابك وارزقنا من مواهبك وأنعم علينا من فضلك وارزقنا حج بيتك وزيارة قبر نبيك صلواتك ورحمتك ومغفرتك وبركاتك ورضوانك عليه وعلى أهل بيته إنك قريب مجيب وارزقنا عملا بطاعتك وتوفنا على ملتك وسنة رسولك صلى الله عليه وآله اللهم واغفر لي ولوالدي وارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا واجزهما بالإحسان إحسانا وبالسيئات غفرانا اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات وتابع بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات اللهم اغفر لحينا وميتنا وشاهدنا وغائبنا وذكرنا وأنثانا صغيرنا وكبيرنا حرنا ومملوكنا كذب العادلون بالله وضلوا ضلالا بعيدا وخسروا خسرانا مبينا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد واختم لي بخير واكفني ما أهمني من أمر دنياي وآخرتي ولا تسلط علي من لا يرحمني واجعل عافيتك علي منك واقية باقية ولا تسلبني صالح ما نعمت به علي وارزقني من فضلك رزقا واسعا حلالا طيبا اللهم احرسني بحراستك واحفظني بحفظك واكلئني بكلاءتك وارزقني حج بيتك الحرام في عامي هذا وفي كل عام، وارزقني زيارة قبر نبيك صلواتك عليه وآله والأئمة عليهم السلام، ولا تخلني يا رب من تلك المشاهد الشريفة والمواقف الكريمة. اللهم تب علي حتى لا أعصيه، والهمني الخير والعمل به، وخشيتك بالليل والنهار أبدا ما أبقيتني يا رب العالمين. اللهم إني كلما قلت قد تهيأت وتعبت وقمت للصلاة بين يديك وناجيتك، ألقيت علي نعاسا إذا أنا صليت، وسلبتني مناجاتك إذا أنا ناجيتك. ما لي كلما قلت قد صلحت سريرتي وقرب من مجالس التوابين مجلسي، عرضت لي بلية أزالت قدمي وحالت بيني وبين خدمتي. سيدي لعلك عن بابك طردتني، سيدي لعلك عن بابك طردتني وعن خدمتك نحيتني، أو لعلك رأيتني مستخفا بحقك فأقصيتني، أو لعلك رأيتني معرضا عنك فقليتني. أو لعلك وجدتني في مقام الكاذبين فرفضتني، أو لعلك رأيتني غير شاكر لنعمائك فحرمتني، أو لعلك فقدتني من مجالس العلماء فخذلتني، أو لعلك رأيتني في الغافلين فمن رحمتك آيستني، أو لعلك رأيتني في الغافلين فمن رحمتك آيستني، أو لعلك رأيتني عالف مجالس البطالين فبيني وبينهم خليتني، أو لعلك لم تحب أن تسمع دعائي فبعدتني، أو لعلك بجرمي وجريرتي كافية، أو لعلك بقلة حيائي منك جازيتني فإن عفوت يا ربي فطالما عفوت عن المذنبين قبلي، لأن كرمك أي ربي يجل عن مكافاة المقصرين، وأنا عائذ بفضلك هارب منك إليك، متنجز ما وعدت من الصفح عمن أحسن بك ظنا. إلهي أنت أوسع فضلا وأعظم حلما من أن تقايسني بعملي أو أن تستذلني بخطيئتي. وما أنا يا سيدي وما خطري، هبني بفضلك يا سيدي وتصدق علي بعفوك، وجللني بسترك واعف عن توبيخي بكرم وجهك. سيدي أنا الصغير الذي ربيته، وأنا الجاهل الذي علمته، وأنا الضال الذي هديته، وأنا الوضيع الذي رفعته، وأنا الخائف الذي آمنته، والجائع الذي أشبعته، والعطشان الذي أرويته، والعار الذي كسوته، والفقير الذي أغنيته، والضعيف الذي قويته، والذليل الذي عززته، والسقيم الذي شفيته، والسائل الذي أعطيته، والمذنب الذي سترته، والخاطئ الذي أقلته، وأنا القليل الذي كثرته، والمستضعف الذي نصرته، وأنا الطريد الذي آويته، وأنا يا ربي الذي لم أستحيك في الخلاء ولم أراقبك في الملا، وأنا صاحب الدواهي العظمى، أنا الذي على سيده اشترى، أنا الذي عصيت جبار السماء، أنا الذي أعطيت على المعاصي جليل الرشا، أنا الذي حين بشرت بها خرجت إليها أسعى، أنا الذي أملتني فما رعويت، وسترت علي فما استحييت، وعملت بالمعاصي فتعديت، واسقطتني من عينك فما باليت، وبحلمك أملتني، وبسترك سترتني، حتى كأنك أغفلتني، ومن عقوبات المعاصي جنبتني، حتى كأنك استحييتني. إلهي لم أعصك حين عصيتك وأنا لربوبيتك جاحد، ولا بأمرك مستخف ولا لعقوبتك متعرض ولا لوعيدك متهاون، لكنك سيدي خطيئة عرضت وسولت لي نفسي وغلبني هواي فعانني عليها شقوتي وغرني سترك المرخى علي، فقد عصيتك وخالفتك بجهدي، فالآن من عذابك من يستنقذني، ومن أيدي الخصماء غدا من يخلصني، وبحبل من أتصل إن أنت قطعت حبلك عني، سوءتا على ما أحصى كتابك من عملي الذي لولا ما أرجو من كرمك وسعة رحمتك ونهيك إياي عن القنوط لقنطت عندما أتذكرها. يا خير من دعاه داع وأفضل من رجاه راج، برحمتك يا خير من دعاه داع وأفضل من رجاه راج، برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.
Just a reminder that there is the conference room available for younger members of our community if they want to go and stretch their legs or make some noise. The conference room is available between here and the dining room on the left-hand side. And if I can ask you to please recite a loud salawat and invite Sister Sarah for her Quran talk today. Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salawat.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So I have to start by making a confession. I haven't done this the conventional way. Usually you select a verse and present your reflections on it. But I've decided to do it slightly differently by going in chronological order of my train of thoughts. I would like to share four main points before I move on to the actual verse. I think it's fair to say that we have all been distressed over the last few months about the events unfolding in Palestine. And I know that many of us feel helpless despite doing our best with sharing the news, boycotting certain companies, and attending demonstrations. So that's my first point, that feeling of helplessness. Then I heard multiple speakers over the last few months saying that when it comes to Palestine, our responsibility is also at our own community level. That we might not be able to change things for them directly, but what we want is improve things for future generations. Thirdly, recently I heard a talk about free will and predestination. I don't want to go into too much details here because of time restraint, but there is a hadith of our Imam which goes like this: La jabr wa la tafwid balil amr bain al amrain. So in your lives, in our lives, we don't have total free will, but it's not that God decides everything for us either. The hadith tells us that it's actually a combination of both, something in between. And to illustrate this, I would like to invite you to reflect on the life of Prophet Yusuf. He made conscious choices out of his own free will throughout his life. But when you see the full picture, you can tell that God was behind, guiding him in a certain direction, and that Prophet Yusuf was always at the right place at the right time. And my fourth point is that God will improve the situation of whoever he wishes. He doesn't need any of us, but he gives us the opportunity to be part of it. If I take the example of charity, any worthy project always reaches completion, no matter how many wealthy people contribute or not. I've never to date heard of an unfinished project. God is giving us that opportunity to do what's right for our own good. So before I go into the verse I have chosen, I'd like to recap on the above points. That feeling of helplessness, our ability to improve the future of future generations, the balance between free will and predestination, and God giving us the opportunity to participate despite him being needless of us. So for those of you who have already had a look at the verse, you are probably wondering where I'm going with this. Well, I had the above points in my head, and when I came across this verse, I thought it was the missing piece to my jigsaw. I'm sure many of you have heard that God speaks to us through the Quran when we read it, and this is how it felt to me. The verse I have chosen is verse 135 of Surah Nisa. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. O you who have faith, be maintainers of justice and witnesses for the sake of Allah, even if it should be against yourselves or your parents and near relatives, and whether it be someone rich or poor, for Allah has a greater right over them. So do not follow your desires, lest you should be unfair. And if you distort the testimony or disregard it, Allah is indeed well aware of what you do. When I went through this verse, I remember it striking a chord. This verse emphasizes the importance of justice at our community level. And it's actually narrower than the community level. Allah says, be just even if it's against yourself, your parents, or your relatives. This verse warns us about withholding the truth in our favor or in favor of our relatives. If you take our world leaders, they know exactly what the truth is about the conflict in Palestine, but they have decided to conceal the truth and act for their own benefit. Now we all have conflicts in our own lives, even though at a micro scale, alhamdulillah. What do we do when we hold the truth in our hands, but it plays against us or against a family member? Do we side on the side of justice? How many times have we heard that children learn through our actions more than through our words? Now imagine our children see us standing us for the truth, despite it putting us into a difficult situation. They will see that we don't just teach them to say the truth, but we also act upon our words. And they will know how it's practically done, and it will have a lasting impact on them. They will themselves then act upon it and go on to inspire others. I know this verse is specific to justice, but it can be applied to all aspects of our lives. The verse talks about rich and poor. Do we treat people differently depending on their position in society? We are all sitting here. How selective are we as to whom we make space for? Do we decide to ignore certain people or speak better to certain people because of their social status. And I'm, of course, reminding myself first and foremost. Remember, we are looking for the ripple effect and slowly make bigger changes. We are all social beings. If one of us makes an improvement, it will automatically motivate others to do the same. I'm convinced we are all good human beings here. And if one of us sees a good trait in somebody else, I have no doubt they will try to emulate that trait in themselves too. We are in it for the long run. When we start making changes into our lives, we will see the effect into the wider community. The injustice we see in Palestine, we have to start by stopping it in our own homes and our own communities. We all have an individual responsibility. Remember, God will improve the situation of whoever he wishes, with or without our help. Where will we seize the opportunity God has given us to improve things for ourselves and others? I wonder at the potential achievement of the future generation and the impact worldwide. I know I haven't covered the full verse and not done it justice, but hopefully I've given everybody some food for thought. Before I finish, I just wanted to mention a few more general reflections. When Tessin first published my Quran study journal, I bought one straight away because I thought it was an amazing book. But if I'm honest, I didn't quite know what to do with it at first. So it sat on my study shelf for a few months. I used to look at other people's Quran with all the fancy post-it notes and be quite envious, if I'm honest. And if you had told me last Ramadan that I would be standing here today, I wouldn't have believed you. Then an amazing friend created a group on which we would only look at the verses of one page of the Quran journal and share our thoughts. So no tafsir or anything complicated, just thoughts on how we could apply these verses in our daily lives. And that's how it started for me. Just writing few reflections at the bottom of each page. And then as a group, we came across the Quran 3030 course through the Al-Mizan Institute, which requires no Arabic or any advanced knowledge. This course is really amazing for beginners, so if anyone would like more details, please feel free to approach me later. And I'm saying this to hopefully make everyone see that the Quran really is accessible to all. We all just need to make the intention. Finally, I'd like to say I have been blown away by the standard of the other speakers who have shared their reflections so far, and I'm really looking forward to the ones over the next few weeks. Thank you for listening, and thank you for the T4C team for giving me the opportunity. Salawat.
Thank you, Sarah, for that very enlightening talk and discussion and giving us those reflection points to take away. So today also I've been asked to share one of the new initiatives that Time for Change has been doing over the last few months, which is to celebrate the birthdays of those in this month. So it's the month of March. So I won't ask everyone, but those who would like to, who have been born in the month of March, if you could kindly stand up. Or at least put your hands up. Who's born in March? Go on, Mohammed, stand up. There's a few. Oh, and Zinat. Oh? So is this a fix? Did you tell me to do it just for your birthdays? Right, go on. Right, so Zinat has asked me to also ask everyone to just wish those people of the month of March a happy birthday. So if you can all recite a loud salawat for those people whose birthdays are today. And of course we wish you all the best. May Allah grant you many more years of life and opportunities to serve humanity and get closer to Him. Sheikh is asking me to ask you to actually stand up. Right, go on then. Go on then. 1, 2. I'm sorry, I don't think we should clap yet. We should clap. when everyone stands up, because if Salma is there and there's others. All right, happy birthday. Shall I dampen the mood? When sometimes I teach class and my students say, it's my birthday, sir. I said, well, what do I need to congratulate you for? It was your mother and your parents, right? So you didn't do anything on that day. Anyway, this year, T4C is supporting one of the schools in Tanzania, the Bilal School. So can I ask Brother Hadi to please come up and give a few words on those schools? Thank you.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So I don't think most of you know me. My name is Muhammad Hadi. I just go by Hadi. Today I'll be speaking to all of you about Bilal Comprehensive School. So to get started, why don't I give you the vision of the school that we've been operating with. Having risen up from a ground level with the help of support of well-wishers and hard work of exemplary individuals, always under the constant guidance of the Imam of our time and the Almighty, Bilal Comprehensive School has a vision of struggle for quality. And we continue to attempt to better the system and reach out to the less fortunate in our societies in equipping them with the best tools possible, which are education around a background of religious teachings and moral values. Bilal Comprehensive School is encouraged by the success achieved so far from the initiation of the school in 1997, evident by the heartwarming success stories of alumni along the year. Before I tell you where we are today, why don't I give you a brief history of where we've come from. In the year 1996, a small group of children were attending what began as a small madrasa established by Sayyid Kamanpuri in October 1996. Mrs. Shamadeuji and Mrs. Siddiqa Karim were invited to visit the organization and found a staff body comprising 5 teachers. This was when the idea of establishing a school was conceived, and the 150 students were divided amongst classes 1 and 2. This was an opportunity to spread the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt amongst the indigenous inhabitants of the country while providing secular education for the societies of the less fortunate and lower socioeconomic households in order to uplift the community as a whole. Our scheme was prepared in October 1996, and the school officially began running under the banner of Bilal Comprehensive School from January 1997, named after the great African companion of the Prophet of Islam, peace be upon him, and the first muazzin of Islam. Sorry. Current day. 25 years later, this organization, which was born in a small room as a madrasa, has acquired for itself a niche of honor and acknowledgement as one of the most important centers for education, empowerment, and professing the message of religion hand in hand. The impact of the school is seen in the growth and as a birthplace for many alumni who have expanded and gone beyond in higher education and achieved respectable roles in society today. Today, I stand before all of you, requesting your generosity and support in order for us to continue supporting and educating the future in both secular and religious education. We currently need support in the following areas: funds for day-to-day costs and further education opportunities for students. We also need assistance with our current Ramadan relief appeal, Eid gifts for children, food packets that support entire families for the full month. Our aim is to support 200 families for the month, and each packet costs around £30, which then proceeds to support a family for the entire month. We've also had a long-standing tradition for the last 10 years of sending one of our members of staff to Hajj. However, unfortunately this year, due to unforeseen circumstances, we are $4,500 short of this target. And we are fastly approaching the deadline and need funds for that, as well as we would be very disappointed to break a long-standing tradition. In addition to this, we have our annual Hifz competition together with the Wiladat of Imam Imam Hasan alayhi salam, which is often followed by an iftar where we serve 1,000 people. We also have the program for Shahadat of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and if this iftar we serve students and others, the number usually amounting to up to 500 people. Lastly, just this week, 5 of our nursery students were invited to an inter-school Quran competition at Al-Muntazir Islamic International School in Dar es Salaam, where out of those 5, one of our students managed to secure 3rd place, which was a stellar outcome for us, as you guys can see. Finally, I want to say thank you all for your time today. I hope you can view this with more than just your eyes and open up your hearts to us today, as we have put in a lot of work over the past years. This school essentially started with an idea and the hard work of individuals. My aunts, my grandfather, a lot of people in my life have committed a lot to this organization, and I have committed most of my life to it. I've grown up serving these children, and I'm friends with some of them who are my age, peers. Some of them even work at my family's establishment nowadays. We've come a long way, but if we want to continue going forward, we need continuous support from the community in order to continue providing quality education and support for these children, as well as successful outreach to their communities. Thank you. Again, thank you all for your time today. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. Yeah.
Thank you. I believe Muhammad Hadi will be here through the program, so if you want to talk to him later on or in fact donate, then please do get in touch with him, and some more information will be sent on the WhatsApp group as well. So today, for the younger children, there's a special program for children in years 1 to 9, and that's to create some birds for Palestine using some paper plates and other bits and pieces. So if I can ask all of the kids year 1 to 9 to please stand up and head to the back, and the teachers will take you to the correct places. Thank you. Last time put it on the side, right? At an angle. And for our talk today, can I please invite Sheikh Hobballah to come to the front. Please recite one loud salawat.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Today we will briefly discuss the life of Imam Hasan bin Ali Salamullahi Ta'ala alayh, focusing on the later part of his life when he assumed the caliphate. We will also talk about what is known as the peace treaty between Imam Hasan and Muawiyah. So first of all, it should be noted that many Muslims, including the Shia, know very little about the Imams of the Ahlul Bayt, unfortunately. Most of what they know relates to the biography of Imam Ali and Imam Hussein. Even Imam Hussein is often only known for what happened in Karbala, not before. One of the Imams about whom very little is known is Imam Hasan ibn Ali alayhi salam. Some scholars considered him an oppressed Imam, arguing that he did not receive his due rights among the Shia, let alone others. I will split it's very small, sorry, because I did this time. I will split the discussion into several actions: the personal life of Imam, between 11 after Hijrah till 40 after Hijrah, and 40-41, peace treaty, and a reconciliation with Muawiyah, and some questions about this reconciliation, and then the Shahada and death of Imam al-Hasan Salamullahi Ta'ala alayh. So the first thing, the personal life, briefly, of personal life of Imam Hasan. The common belief among the Shia is that the Imam Hasan ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam was born on the night of the 15th of Ramadan in the third year after Hijrah. However, there is a narration by Shaykh al-Kulayni stating that he was born in the second year after Hijrah. Some historical accounts suggest his birth in Sha'ban of the third year after Hijrah, while others mentioned the fourth or even the fifth year. Imam Hasan was the first of the children born to Ali and Fatima alayhim as-salam. When the Prophet learned of his birth, he was delighted and named him. This name, Hasan, was not common during the pre-Islamic era among the Arabs. Rather, he was commonly referred to as Abu Muhammad from his childhood, Abu Muhammad, because Islam encourages giving children a nickname from a young age. This practice aimed to counteract the old tradition where people would give inappropriate nicknames to each other. By assigning a nickname for your children or from childhood, it prevents the use of inappropriate titles as the child grows older, serving as a form of protection for the children and their rights. Imam Hasan has known for his striking resemblance to his grandfather, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and was described as having excellent manners from his childhood. One story illustrates this. Hasan and his brother Hussein wanted to teach an elderly man the correct way to perform wudu. They observed the man making mistakes in his wudu, so they gently corrected each other's wudu in front of him. The old man noticed that and learned the correct way without feeling offended. Hasan married several women. And according to the famous historical opinion, had 15 children. However, his descendants came through only 2 of his sons. Hasan, the son of Hasan. Because of this, we call it in Arabic Al-Hasanul Muthanna. So his name was Al-Hasanul Muthanna, his son, Hasan and Zayd. His progeny became none of Al-Hasaniyun. We spoke a little bit about them last time, I think. So his progeny became known as Al-Hasaniyun. In the 2nd century after Hijrah, many descendants of Imam Hasan led significant revolutions against the Abbasids. One of the most famous among them was Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn al-Hasan al-Muthanna ibn al-Hasan ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib, known as, at that time, An-Nafs al-Zakiyya. He led a rebellion against the Abbasid ruler Abu Ja'far al-Mansur in Medina al-Munawwara and was killed in this uprising. Amongst the supporters of An-Nafs al-Zakiyya, one of his supporters, An-Nafs al-Zakiyya, was Imam Abu Hanifa, the founder of the Hanafi school of jurisprudence. Therefore, some researchers considered Abu Hanifa a political Shia, although he was Sunni in creed and jurisprudence. Due to his political inclination, the Abbasid authorities imprisoned Abu Hanifa until he died in prison 150 after Hijrah. In any case, we all know that Imam Hasan is the 2nd Shia Imam and one of the Ashabul Kisa'. And the Prophet said about him, Hasan and Hussein are 2 Imams whether they rise or sit. The Prophet also said about him, if intellect were a person, it would be Hasan. All Muslims respected Imam Hasan greatly. Many Sunni scholars even considered the rightly guided caliphs, Al-Khulafa al-Rashidun, to be 5, not 4, including Hasan among them. They said Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, and Hasan. So these are Al-Khulafa al-Rashidun. And they believed that the era of the rightly guided caliphate ended with Al-Hasan, not with Ali. However, gradually, by time, the concept of the five rightly guided caliphs began to fade, and the idea of the 4 rightly guided caliphs became established. Imam Hasan performed Hajj on foot. This happened for a period of 20 or 25 years. 20 or 25 times he went from Medina to Mecca on his foot. It's because the riwayat is different here. He divided his wealth 3 times. قَاسَمَ اللَّهَ مَالَهُ ثَلَاثَ مَرَّاتٍ. He divided his wealth 3 times for charity, which means he gave half of his wealth in charity 3 times. Imam Hasan was known for his immense patience. Once a man from Sham, from Syria or Lebanon, maybe from my city, I don't know, unfortunately, insulted him and abused him upon knowing that he was the son of Ali. However, Hasan did not get angry or argue with him. Instead, he asked him, "Are you a stranger here in these lands, in Medina?" Then man replied affirmatively. Hasan then said, "If you need anything, we will provide it for you. If you need a place to stay, we will shelter you. If you are hungry, we will feed you." The man felt ashamed and softened towards him, becoming fond of him. This is briefly about his personal life. So now we speak about his political activity during the time of Imam Ali and before, from death of Prophet Muhammad, 11 after Hijrah to 40 after Hijrah. So we do not know much information about the political activities of Imam Hasan during the reigns of the first 3 caliphs. However, some very weak historical accounts claim that he participated in 2 of the Muslim conquests during the reigns of Uthman ibn Affan. It is said that he took part in the conquest of North Africa and Tabaristan in northern Iran. However, I conducted detailed research previously in my book on the jurisprudence of war and peace in Islamic law, and I concluded that it is very difficult to prove that Imam Hasan or Imam Hussein or even Imam Ali participated in any of the conquests that took place in various countries during the time of the first 3 caliphs. Regarding the era of Imam Ali, The biography of Imam Hasan is surrounded by many questions and mysteries. Some depicted Imam Hasan as a figure distinct from the Ahlul Bayt. For example, efforts without history have been made to portray Hasan as being at odds with his father Ali in his war against other Muslims. They spread a saying attributed to the Prophet that Hasan is from him, from Prophet, and Hussein is from Ali. What does that mean? Implying that Hussein inherited Ali's warrior spirit, while Hasan resembled the Prophet in his efforts to avoid wars whenever possible, like Sulh al-Hudaybiyah. It is possible that these historical narratives were crafted by individuals loyal to the Abbasids to tell the descendants of Imam Hasan, al-Hasaniyun, in the 2nd century, that their revolutionary thinking contradicted the opinion of their grandfather, Imam Hasan, who was peaceful. Maybe. Allah A'lam. So when we examine historical facts, we discover that Imam Hasan was not isolated from his father in political work. Imam Hasan sent him along with Imam Hussein to protect the house of Khalifa Uthman ibn Affan from the rebels. He later reproached them for failing to prevent the rebels from entering the house and killing Uthman. Before the Battle of the Camel, Imam Ali sent him to Kufa to inform the people about the departure of Talha and Aisha and to represent him to gathering forces and fighters. When Hasan arrived to Kufa, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, who was discouraging people from fighting against Aisha's army, was removed from his position, and Hasan delivered speeches that stirred people's emotions, successfully rallying 10,000 fighters. So he gathered 10,000 fighters to Ali ibn Abi Talib. We will see shortly what these priorities were after assuming the caliphate and how he insisted on fighting Muawiyah. So, death of Imam Ali and the succession of Imam Hasan to the caliphate. This is the very critical time. The passing of Imam Ali came at a time of unrest for the people of Kufa, as they were deeply divided and fragmented. In fact, and because of this, Imam Ali was buried secretly, there. And the location of his grave was only known during the time of Imam Sadiq in the 2nd century. Nobody knows, just Ahlul Bayt. Perhaps out of fear that the Kharijites, al-Khawarij, would dig up his grave at night due to the tense situation prevailing in Kufa at that time. So the situation was very, very, very complicated when Ali passed away. The central problem facing Imam Hasan was the separation of Ash-Sham, Syria, Lebanon, part of Jordan, from the central caliphate in Kufa, while most regions of Iraq, Iran, and Hijaz pledged allegiance to Hasan. Just Syria, just Sham. So the people of Kufa rallied around him out of a sense of need for leadership to protect them from Muawiyah's expansion toward them. They pledged allegiance to Hasan in the month of Ramadan, with a pledge focused around fighting the people of Sham. Additionally, the people of Kufa loved Hasan, not just because of Sham. They really loved Hasan so much that the very famous historian Ibn Kathir says Ahlul Kufa, they loved him more than they loved Imam Ali himself. At the moment of pledging allegiance to Hasan, some Muslims were also pledging allegiance to Muawiyah. Some men from Kufa were secretly pledging allegiance to Muawiyah, and Muawiyah even asked them to assassinate Hasan a fact that Hasan became aware of. He wore armor even during prayers to protect himself from assassination attempts. And indeed, he survived an assassination attempt because of that armor. When Hasan first assumed power, he faced two major adversaries, the Umayyad party and the Kharijites, both enemies of Imam Ali. Hasan did not engage in war with the Kharijites, but after Muawiyah prepared an army and directed it towards Kufa upon hearing of Ali's death, Hasan learned of this but did not immediately engage in war against Muawiyah. Instead, he began corresponding with Muawiyah, seeking allegiance from him and the resolution of the Muslims' problems and the unification of their lands. However, Muawiyah replied to him with a letter in which he made it clear that he was older than Hasan and more politically astute than Hasan, and that his situation with Hasan resembled that of Abu Bakr with Ali, where Ali was younger and Abu Bakr was older and had more life experience. So, reconciliation with Muawiyah. The first problem Hasan faced was that although his allegiance, with instance from him, was centered around protecting Kufa from Sham, many people hesitate to go to war despite Hasan having announced general mobilization. He had to resort to numerous speeches to incite people to participate in the war, and the result of his efforts was the assembly of 12,000 fighters. They went to the camp called Al-Nukhayla. Today it's in Al-Hilla in Iraq. So the camp now, the military camp, was in Al-Nukhayla, 12,000 fighters, just this. Hasan chose Abu Ubaidullah ibn al-Abbas to lead the army, assisted by Qais ibn Sa'd ibn Abada, and sent the army to fight another army, 60,000 of the Syrian army. So we have here 12,000 and we have there 60,000. So he was forced to go again to Kufa and several places to give speeches to people to gather more and more and more fighters. So this was problematic for him, as we will see inshallah. So he returned to mobilize more fighters to join his army heading to fight the people of Sham. This temporary, so he put his army in Nukhayla and he went back to give some speeches. So this separation, this is very important in history. This temporary separation between the Imam and his army created another major problem as Muawiyah began to spread lots of rumors. It was rumored among Hasan's army here in Nukhayla that Hasan had reconciled with Muawiyah and had called on his army to join Muawiyah and promised to give each soldier 1,000 dirhams. This caused unrest among Hasan's army. And many joined Muawiyah, and tribes joined him one after the other. Only 4,000 from 12,000, only 4,000 remained under the leadership of Qais ibn Sa'd. Then these rumors were followed by other rumors indicating that Hasan's army, at this side, Hasan's army, led by Qais ibn Sa'd, had also reconciled with Muawiyah, and that the situation was now concluded in Muawiyah's favor. This is where the idea of reconciliation between Hasan and Muawiyah came from. Hasan's army had become demoralized and had been misled by the intensity of the propaganda and were not willing to fight anyone. There is also a famous historical perspective that considers betrayal to be one of the main reasons for the collapse of Imam Hasan's army, and that some army commanders, including the head Ubaidullah ibn al-Abbas betrayed Imam Hasan and joined Muawiyah for vast sum of money, among other things. Additionally, some prominent figures from Al-Kufa itself sent messages to Muawiyah declaring their readiness to kill Hasan and bring his head to Muawiyah. And Muawiyah sent, he was very clever, and Muawiyah sent these same messages to Imam Hasan himself, telling him that his army and supporters had abandoned him. Regardless of the reasons, whether they were rumors or betrayals, or both, I think both, the army had indeed collapsed, and its morale and determination had vanished. Hasan realized that it was no longer possible to continue the war with Muawiyah. Hasan said in some of his statements that he saw people's inclinations towards reconciliation and their aversion to war, so he did not want to force them into what they disliked. This means that the Imam al-Muslimin, does not impose on people what they do not want, even if they are wrong. According to these reported words attributed to him, Hasan's policy is based on the fact that the ruler must take people's opinions into account in the details of the events, in waging wars, and in signing major treaties that affected their lives and destiny. He cannot impose his opinion against the majority of the people, even if he is an infallible Imam. Therefore, we will see shortly that one of the clauses of the peace treaty, according to some historical narratives, is that Muawiyah is not entitled to appoint anyone after him, and that he must make the matter a consultation among the Muslims. Shura bayn al-Muslimin. Also, in another speech, Imam Hasan justified the reconciliation as a means to protect the people of Kufa from Muawiyah's oppression, meaning that the Imam of the Muslims cannot sacrifice the people and his nation when he sees that that victory is not achievable. Classical historical books have transmitted the terms of peace treaty between Hasan and Muawiyah. However, when we review these books, we discover that there are differences in determining the terms of the peace treaty. What is common between them is that Hasan gives the power in favor of Muawiyah in exchange for Muawiyah not mistreating the people of Iraq or the Prophet's family, and that he does not appoint a Khalifa after him. So now this is a bit challenging. Questions regarding some terms of the treaty between Hasan and peace treaty between Hasan and Muawiyah. So the incident of the peace treaty between Muawiyah and Hasan has been a subject of controversy among historians from various perspectives. I just want to mention two things briefly. The stance of Imam Hussein regarding the peace treaty. What did he say? What did he say? Historical accounts, I'm speaking here not a theologian, but as a historian. Historical accounts suggest that he opposed his brother Hasan and was not enthusiastic about the reconciliation. Texts in historical books have been published to confirm this. However, many historical texts about Hussein that he affirmed that he agreed to abidi by the reconciliation until the death of Muawiyah. So this is the first thing. It's very interesting, the differences between Imam Hasan and Imam Hussein in this. So theologically, for the Shia, it has no meaning, but historically, there is something in our history books. The second thing, the financial condition and the reconciliation's third controversy in history. Some narrations in history who supported the Umayyads depicted the sense as if Hasan reconciled with the condition of receiving certain amount of money, estimated at 55,000 dirhams annually. So this is part of the peace treaty, that Muawiyah must give money every year to Imam Hasan. 55,000. In addition to agriculture produce from some regions. It was portrayed as if Hasan was demanding personal, financial, and authoritative matters. Other historical narratives suggest that Hasan's demands were different, including adherence to the Quran, the Sunnah of the Prophet, and the righteous caliph's conduct. It was also stipulated that Muawiyah should not appoint anyone after him, but rather leave it to consultation among the Muslims, ensure the safety of people's lives and property, and refrain from plotting against Hasan ibn Ali, whether secretly or openly. Some historical narratives suggest that the financial condition set by Hasan was to secure the expenses of the families of martyrs in the battles of Ali, in the Battle of the Camel and Siffin. Thus, the peace treaty between the two parties took place, and Imam Hasan, along with the Prophet's family, prepared themselves to return to Medina to live there. After Muawiyah stabilized his rule and came to Kufa to take allegiance from its people, the situation in Iraq was disturbed by the Kharijites this time. At several points, the Kharijites attacked Muawiyah's army, causing disruptions. Interestingly, Muawiyah asked Hasan this time, who was returning to Medina from Iraq at that time, asked him to help him and incite the Shia to fight the Kharijites. But Hasan refused, saying to him that if he fought anyone, he would fight him, not the Kharijites. Thus, Hasan and his Shia avoided getting involved in a battle between Muawiyah and the Kharijites in Iraq. So finally, the death of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. Sorry, I got a long time, maybe, I don't know. So after returning to Medina, Imam Hasan lived there for about 9 or 10 years, focusing on worship and spreading religion. He was known for his generosity and constant welfare to the poor and needy, as many narrations testify. It seems that his financial situation was good in Medina, which is why he often spent his money on people. He spent the last decades of his life without political conflicts, dedicating himself to religious matters and helping people. Historical accounts state that Hasan was poisoned several times, not one time, several times, but survived. However, he was murdered by poison for the last time in the year 49 or 50 after Hijrah at the age of either 47 or 48. Shiite books state that his wife Ja'datu bintul Ash'ath poisoned him at the request of Yazid ibn Muawiyah or at the request of Muawiyah himself. Some Sunni scholars, like the very famous historian Ibn Khaldun, reject the claim that Muawiyah was the one who poisoned Imam Hasan. After Hasan's death, another problem arose regarding his burial. The mourners were going to bury Hasan near the Prophet, as he had instructed his brother Hussein to bury him there. However, Marwan ibn al-Hakam was one of the very famous Umayyawi. So Marwan ibn al-Hakam incited the people not to bury Hasan near the Prophet, objecting that Uthman ibn Affan was buried in Al-Baqi' and not near the Prophet. And there is a fight, not fighting, some here and there between, some problems caused between Marwan ibn al-Hakam and Imam Hussein. And there almost was a fight among the people. Had it not been for the intervention of some companions of the Prophet who calmed the situation. Hasan was not buried near the Prophet, but was buried in Al-Baqi'. The people of Medina were affected by the death of Hasan, and it is said that they closed their shops for a whole week. Today, Shia Muslims are divided into exact dates on which Hasan died. In Iran, the 28th of Safar is considered the day of the Prophet's death and the death of Imam Hasan alayhi salam, and it is an official holiday. However, in many other Shia countries, especially in Iraq and the seminary of Najaf, the 7th of Safar is considered the day of the death of Imam Hasan al-Mushtaba alayhi salam. Finally, it is regrettable that we do not have many narrations, unfortunately, from Imam Hasan. There are only about 250 to 300 narrations in all Shia books from Al-Imam al-Hasan, when we have tens of thousands of narrations from Al-Imam al-Baqir and Imam al-Sadiq, alayhim jami'an afdal as-salati was-salam. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
We have some time, about 5-10 minutes for some questions. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Sheikh, for an extremely informative presentation. The controversial parts of it, I'm going to pick on that, not from your theological standpoint, but objectively as a historian, how much credibility is there to that narrative that Imam Hussein alayhi salam opposed his brother Imam Hassan when it comes to this treaty?
Thank you. Good question. In my opinion, it's not very strong narrations that we can say historically that happened really at that time. But we have some in several books, not in a Shi'i hadith books. The majority in like At-Tabari, like Ibn al-Athir, like these books. Yeah, not very strong.
Any other questions?
Just wanted a small clarification. You know, when you talked about the death and how there was some issues around the burial time of Imam Hassan. So I grew up listening on the Shahada day of Imam Hassan that when his body was being taken to be buried next to the Prophet, it was more than a bit of argument. There was arrows being fired on his, on his janazah, and then because of that, then the body had to go back to be given ghusl again. And then afterwards it was taken to Baqi to be buried. So can you just clarify historically the accuracy of these facts? So basically that because arrows were anybody correct me if I'm wrong, but that's because arrows were fired on the body, and then because I am just assuming because it would have been maybe more blood or anything, and then that the ghusl had been re-given and kafan, and then before the burial was done.
No, it's just a riwayah. It's some riwayah here and there. No, it's the main books, the history and hadithi books. They just mention some problems, some conflict between people, and again they said, okay, we will bury him in Al-Baqi'. But they did the ghusl mayyit again. No. Maybe on the members they said something like, I don't know. Yeah, arrows, yeah. Yeah, no, this conflict, I not that there were, but they made the ghusl again? No, something like
that. Thank you. How was Muawiyah allowed to amass so much power and influence during the time of Imam Ali?
How was Muawiyah allowed to become so powerful?
The main reason is that Ahlul Kufa were 100 parts. They are fighting each other, they are tribes, they can't have this feeling of one state, citizenship. So they always rejecting everything, they always criticizing, they don't like everything. If Muawiyah, so when Muawiyah came, they start even fight Muawiyah, and after that they start fighting Al-Abbasid. The situation in Kufa was not good for Imam Ali, unfortunately. It's different from the situation in Syria and Sham. The situation was 100% for Muawiyah. And maybe Imam Ali, because he gave them some freedom, because they critiqued him and he accepted their criticisms, maybe because of this, they couldn't understand the value of this freedom. At Muawiyah, nobody can critique him, nobody can say anything against him. So he will cut his head, like what he did with Hijr ibn Adi, for example. Maybe this is one of the reasons.
Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. Apologies, I walked in a little bit late, so you may have spoken about the issue. We often find in books of Tariq, in the Seerah of Imam al-Hasan, especially in Sunni sources, that Imam al-Hasan had dozens, if not hundreds of wives. Can you shed some historical sort of insight? Are these reports accurate? And if they're accurate, what was the sort of wisdom behind so many marriages from the perspective of Imam al-Hasan? Thank you.
Thank you. A very controversial question. Yes, we have some narrations, even in the Shia books, that Imam Ali said, don't allow Hassan to marry any of your daughters or your women's, because he married a woman for maybe months, then he gave talaq to her, then again another one, and again another one, and again another one. So some scholars, they collect all these narrations from different books, history, Sunni, Shi'i, and they said these narrations made by the Abbasid, or at the time of the Abbasid, when the Abbasid, especially Abu Ja'far al-Mansur and these Abbasid, because they want to destroy the Hassanis. They want to destroy them. They want to say, your shajara, not like the Husseinis, because the Husseinis, like Imam Baqir and Imam Sadiq, they didn't want to be in conflict with Umayyad and Abbasid after Imam Hussein. But the Hassanis, they wanted to do that. So maybe they said, maybe they create this image for Imam Hassan to destroy the whole descendants, the whole family, the whole Hassani family in front of people and society. They said that. So there are some, what you can say, justifications, the Shia justifications. I don't believe in these justifications. They said Imam Hassan did that because he wants just to, what to say? The women, they want to be with him just as something, what can I say? It's a sharaf, honor for them to marry one of the Prophet's family, a member of the Prophet's family, and he accept that for some women. I don't know, but it isn't reasonable. I think that the main story is the time of the Abbasiyun. Maybe they made these narrations because they want to destroy the Hassaniyin at that time, maybe.
Thank you. Maybe just one final question, for the ladies.
Thank you so much. Very, very informative. I have a question that is related to, in a way, how in Pakistan, for example, as a Sunni, I've kind of received stories about, about Hazrat Ali, about Hazrat Imam Hussein, Imam Hasan, and Muawiyah. Right, so when I was growing up, I never heard anything good about Muawiyah, right? We also did some celebration of Muharram as well and so on. But as we grew older, I noticed that the kind of Urdu literature related to sort of boosting Muawiyah kind of increased. And more people started to circulate it. And this idea of Muawiyah being a Sahabi and all this kind of thing became more common. And the only explanation that I could think of was, the expat workers in the Middle East and so on, bringing back kind of, Wahhabi ideology, etc. But but I'm guessing this is also, common from older historical records, right? So I'm just curious about that, this sort of discourse.
Thank you. This story started, I think, before Pakistan. I don't know what time, because we have some scholars, Arab scholars, in Emirat, in Qatar, in Saudi Arabia. They started from around 20 years to create a new image about the Umayyad, not just Muawiyah, the whole Umayyad time. And they said the history that made in the Abbasid time, and the Abbasid were the enemies of the Umayyads, so it's normal that they created the whole story about the Umayyah and Bani Umayyah and all these, because they were the enemies. So that we don't have history books at the Umayyad time. So they start to collect everything in all books, Muslim books, that mentioned something good for Hisham ibn al-Hakam or Yazid ibn Muawiyah or something like that, to create a new image for Bani Umayyah. And even today, there are very famous, I don't remember now his name, is from Saudi Arabia. He had just a few months, maybe 1 month, he had a very long podcast. He started to say that the Umayyad were very good, and all the revolutions were bad, and all these rubbish. And the Umayyad were very good, and so this is the movement, I think, against the Shia in the context of the conflict between Iran and Saudi Arabia. So, but Muawiyah is an exception, because Muawiyah is Sahabi, and Ahlus Sunnah, they believe he was Adil. Maybe they would say that he did, sometimes he did mistakes on something, but they accept Muawiyah. But they speak badly about Yazid and after Yazid. But today they start to speak with another way, even about Yazid. Yeah, even about Yazid. I think I read some of their books and heard some of podcasts, and I think they don't have a really great evidence in a moral, but they have good evidence that Bani Umayyah were really experts and good in creating a very strong state. Yeah, they were very good, because if you go to the history, you will find Umar ibn al-Khattab and Bani Umayyah, they create our history in states. In power and all these things. Yes, in that side, yes, that's okay. But in their life or in their experiences against Muslims, I think it isn't something successful that they try to do right now, I think. as I know, in Arab world, 20 years, 25 years, we have this movement, not one person, it's a movement. Yeah, and the majority of them are Salafis, or their background Salafis. Yeah, and I don't know, maybe in Pakistan before, because for example, Ihsan Ilahi Zahir, he is before the movement in Saudi Arabia against the Shia. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. Please recite salawat. Sant, so that's the last programs for this weekend. Inshallah, as usual, next weekend, Thursday, Friday and Saturday. Please do remember to register in advance, particularly mentioning on the form if you'd like some vegetarian food. Also, if you'd like to stay updated, there's the WhatsApp group. If some of you aren't on the WhatsApp group, please do approach one of the team and we'll add you. The donations have been coming in very well. We've been managing to cover the costs of all the iftars. Obviously, we've got a few weekends more, so please do continue to donate. Think about it in terms of, each day that we attend, few pounds per family, few pounds per person, and it'll start adding up and we'll definitely fill up all our requirements for money. So please continue to donate, and thank you for all those donations so far. The details of donations and the bank account details are on the WhatsApp group of T4C as well. So if you need help in identifying where to send your donation, just look at the WhatsApp group. I hope that, Zinat, I passed the audition for today. And if anyone else would like to do some announcements, feel free to do it for next time. Please can I ask you to recite Surah Fatiha for the marhumeens whose names are on the board, and all the marhumeens Al-Fatiha. As usual, this I recite it again. As usual, there is still some food for sale outside, and Isha Salah will be starting in 5 minutes' time. Thank you.